Chapter 1. The Man She Never Saw. For years, I was invisible to her. Not because I didn't exist, but because I didn't shine the way she wanted. While others flaunted cars they didn't own and lives they couldn't afford, I stood quietly in the background, working, building, waiting. She never noticed the effort, only the price tags. We met when we were young, too. Young to understand how deeply ambition and insecurity could change a person. Back then, she laughed easily. Talked about dreams and promised that love was enough. I believed her. I believed we were enough. But time has a way of revealing truths people try to hide. As the years passed, her eyes stopped meeting mine. They followed men in tailored suits, watches that glinted under restaurant lights, and conversations filled with numbers instead of meaning. I became her friend, the safe option, the one she called when others disappointed her. She ignored me for years, not cruelly, but casually, as if I were furniture. Always there, never chosen. I watched from a distance as she chased rich men who treated her like an accessory. Each time she came back bruised emotionally, sometimes financially, I was there. Not because I expected anything in return, but because I still cared. Until one night, everything changed. She laughed at me. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Just a small smile when I suggested we try us. She told me I was kind, reliable, too ordinary. That word stayed with me. Ordinary. That night I walked away, not in anger, but in clarity. I stopped waiting. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped being available. Years passed. I built my life quietly, the same way I always had, but this time with purpose. No announcements, no displays, just results. And then one evening, fate placed us in the same room again. She saw me laughing with another woman, someone confident, warm, effortless. Someone who chose me without hesitation. I felt it before I saw it, her gaze burning into my back. When our eyes finally met, her expression shattered. Confusion, shock, regret. For the first time, she looked at me the way I once looked at her. And that's when I knew she didn't miss me. She missed the version of herself that thought she had time to choose. Time didn't heal anything. It only exposed the truth. Years passed after she walked out of my life without even turning back. While I stayed behind, rebuilding myself in silence, she chased a world that glittered loudly. Expensive restaurants, designer bags, men with flashy cars and empty promises. She posted it all like trophies. Every photo screamed success, but something always felt hollow behind her smile. I watched from afar, not because I missed her, but because I wanted to understand how easily she erased what we once were. Back then I was too ordinary, too focused on work, too quiet, too poor in her eyes. She used to say, "Love isn't enough. I want more." So she left, without hesitation. What she never knew was that I stopped chasing people the day she walked away. I chased purpose instead. While she was busy attending elite parties on borrowed status, I was grinding through sleepless nights, learning, failing, standing up again. I built connections quietly. I invested when no one believed in me. I endured humiliation without explaining myself to anyone. Success didn't come suddenly. It came silently. One evening, fate twisted the knife gently. I attended a private business event. Invite only, no cameras, no fake smiles. That's when I saw her again. She walked in on the arm of another rich man, dressed beautifully, confidence dripping from her posture. But when her eyes met mine, something shattered. She froze. Not because she recognized me immediately, but because she felt something. Familiar, something unsettling. I wasn't alone. Beside me stood a woman who didn't need to announce her worth. Calm, elegant, secure. She held my arm naturally, not possessively, like she belonged there. Like she trusted me. That's when realization hit her. I wasn't the same man she left behind. My posture had changed. My eyes were steady. My presence commanded respect. People greeted me first. She noticed how others leaned in when I spoke. How the host personally introduced me, how her companion suddenly looked uncomfortable standing next to me. For the first time, she wasn't the center of attention. And for the first time, she felt invisible. I didn't approach her. I didn't acknowledge her. That hurt her more than words ever could, because indifference is louder than rejection. As the night went on, I could feel her eyes following me. Not with arrogance, but regret. Not with pride, but confusion. She had spent years ignoring me, chasing wealth through others. Now she was watching me, standing beside someone better, and realizing she had misjudged everything. This wasn't revenge. This was consequence, and it was only the beginning. Chapter 3. The moment she looked back. By the time 3 years had passed, I was no longer the man people overlooked. I didn't become rich overnight. I didn't wake up famous or powerful. What changed was something quieter, my absence. When I stopped chasing, stopped explaining, stopped hoping she'd finally see me, life began to move forward on its own. I built routines. Early mornings, long nights, relentless consistency. I learned that silence, when paired with discipline, becomes dangerous. A different world. The cafe I worked in back then was gone. The cheap apartment too. Now I lived in a glass-lit city, where elevators whispered and meetings decided futures. And that's where she saw me again. It wasn't dramatic at first, just a glance. She stood across the street holding her phone, dressed perfectly, the same kind of perfection she always chased. Her eyes landed on me, then paused. That pause told me everything. She wasn't sure it was me. I was wearing a tailored coat. My posture was different. My face calmer, older, sharper, unbothered. Beside me stood another woman. Not loud, not flashy, but steady. She laughed softly at something I said, her hand brushing my arm like it belonged there. And for the first time in years, she looked at me the way I once looked at her. Regret is a slow realization. I felt it before I saw it. Her hesitation, her step forward, then back. She remembered. The guy who waited. The guy who texted first. The guy who believed loyalty was enough. She remembered ignoring my messages while posting photos in expensive restaurants with men who never stayed. Now she watched me walk away, not alone, not broken, but complete. She followed, not close enough to be obvious, not far enough to let go. I didn't turn around, because some moments don't need confrontation. They need contrast, the question she never asked. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A notification I hadn't seen in years. Her name. Is that really you? I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pride. Just clarity. I typed nothing. Because the truth was already louder than any reply. She ignored me while chasing rich men. Now she was watching me become everything she thought she wanted. With someone else. And that was the moment she truly lost me. I never planned to run into her again. Life had finally settled into something peaceful, something earned. The sleepless nights. The quiet suffering. Years of being invisible had turned into discipline, confidence, and purpose. I wasn't rich for show. I wasn't successful for revenge. I was just whole. That's when fate decided to test me. It happened at a charity gala in downtown Chicago. Glass walls, warm golden lights, soft jazz humming through the air. People in tailored suits and elegant dresses moved like they belonged there. And for the first time in my life, I did too. I stood beside Emma, calm, graceful, intelligent. Not flashy, not loud. She didn't need attention. It naturally found her. Her hand rested lightly on my arm, not possessive, just present. That simple gesture said more than 1,000 social media posts ever could. Then I felt it, that familiar gaze. I turned my head slightly, and there she was. Sarah. She looked stunned, not angry, not proud, just frozen, like someone who had walked into the wrong version of reality. Her eyes moved from my face to my suit to Emma's hand on my arm and back again. Her lips parted, but no words came out. This wasn't how it was supposed to go in her mind. For years she had ignored me, walked past me, replied late, laughed when I talked about my goals. She chased men with expensive cars, borrowed confidence, and empty promises, while I was too ordinary, too slow, too safe. Now the room had flipped the script. People greeted me by name. Executives shook my hand. A board member introduced me as one of the key partners behind the expansion project. Sarah heard every word. Her world cracked quietly. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I didn't even acknowledge her at first. That hurt her more than any insult ever could. She finally walked over, forcing confidence into her steps. "Hey," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "Long time." I nodded politely. "Yeah, it's been a while." She glanced at Emma. "I didn't know you were together." Emma smiled, not sharply, not defensively. Just warmly. "Nice to meet you." "I'm Emma." Sarah shook her hand, but her grip was weak. Her eyes searched my face for something. Regret, anger, longing. She found none. I always knew you'd do well, Sarah said quickly. You just needed time. That sentence hit me harder than anything else, because once upon a time I begged her to believe in me before the results. I looked at her calmly. No, I needed distance. Silence. She swallowed. I made mistakes. I know, I replied. So did I. I stayed where I wasn't valued. Emma gently squeezed my arm. That was my answer. That was my choice. Sarah nodded slowly, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm happy for you. And for the first time, I believed her pain was real. As she walked away, alone in a room full of people, I realized something important. I didn't win because she lost. I won because I stopped chasing someone who never turned around. Chapter 5. The moment she realized she lost me forever. By the time autumn arrived, my life no longer resembled the quiet, invisible existence I once lived. The company I co-founded had just closed a major deal. My name appeared in business blogs, local news features, and industry panels, not because I chased attention, but because success has a way of dragging light behind it, and that light reached her. I didn't know she would be there that night. The charity gala was supposed to be simple, networking, polite smiles, a speech or two. I arrived with Claire, the woman who had quietly entered my life without trying to replace the past. Claire wasn't flashy. She didn't chase status. She didn't measure people by their wallets. She saw me before the success. Her hand rested lightly on my arm as we walked into the venue. Her smile calm, confident, unafraid. And that's when I felt it. A stare. Sharp, frozen, disbelieving. I turned my head and there she was. The woman who once ignored my messages for weeks. The woman who laughed when I said I was building something. The woman who chose men with cars, watches, and empty promises. Her glass trembled in her hand. She looked at me the way people look at a ghost they thought was buried. Her eyes moved slowly, my tailored suit, my posture, the way people greeted me with respect. Then her gaze fell on Claire. And that was when something inside her cracked. Claire leaned closer to me, whispering something that made me smile. Not forced, not polite, real. That smile destroyed her. I felt her approach before I heard her heels. Is that really you? Her voice was smaller now, uncertain. I turned calmly. Yes. No anger, no bitterness, just finality. Her eyes searched my face, desperately hunting for the boy she once overlooked. She didn't find him. You look different, she said, forcing a laugh. I didn't know you were doing this well. I nodded. Life changes. She glanced at Claire. Is she my partner? I said simply. The word landed like a blade. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. For years, she made me feel invisible. Now she couldn't look away. I didn't think you'd move on so fast, she whispered. Claire squeezed my arm, not possessively, but protectively. It took time, I replied. Just not forever. Her eyes shimmered. I thought you'd always be there. I met her gaze fully for the first time. That was your mistake. Silence. People moved around us, laughing, talking, while her world collapsed quietly in the space between us. I hope you're happy, she said, voice trembling. I am, I answered honestly. Then I turned away. No dramatic exit. No revenge speech. Just a man walking forward, with someone who chose him when he had nothing. Behind me I felt it. Regret. Heavy, late, permanent. Chapter 6. The moment she finally understood. By the time winter arrived, my life had settled into something peaceful, something real. Success no longer felt loud or vengeful. It felt earned. I stood on the balcony of my apartment, city lights glowing below, while the woman beside me laughed softly, her hand resting naturally in mine. She wasn't someone I had chased. She was someone who chose me without conditions, without comparisons, without money being the reason. And that's when she saw us. I didn't notice her at first. I never checked who was watching anymore. But I felt it, the sudden shift in the air, the silence behind us. When I turned, there she was, frozen on the sidewalk across the street, staring up like she had just seen a ghost. The woman who ignored me for years. The woman who chased rich men, status, parties, and hollow promises. The woman who once told me, "You're good, but not good enough." Her face said everything words couldn't. This wasn't the regret of losing money. This was the regret of losing time. She had imagined I'd always be behind her, watching her stories, liking her posts, wondering what she was doing. She never imagined a day where I wouldn't even notice her existence. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I didn't look away dramatically. I simply turned back to the woman beside me and continued the conversation. That was the moment she truly broke. Later, I heard through mutual friends that she had asked about me. Asked who I was now. Asked how I changed. Asked if I was happy. The answer was simple. I didn't change to prove her wrong. I changed because I stopped trying to prove anything at all. She spent years chasing men who treated her like an option. I spent those same years becoming someone who no longer needed her validation. And standing there, unseen and unheard, she finally understood the truth. She didn't lose me because she chose others. She lost me because I chose myself. The restaurant was quiet in the way expensive places always were. Soft piano music, warm lighting, and conversations that never rose above polite laughter. I sat across from Emily, the woman who had walked into my life without demanding anything except honesty. She wasn't impressed by my money. She wasn't curious about my past. She only cared about who I was now. And that was exactly why I chose her. As I reached for my glass, I felt it, the familiar sensation of being watched. When I glanced toward the entrance, my chest tightened. She was there. My ex stood just inside the doorway, frozen in place. Her eyes moved from the chandeliers to the guests, to the view outside the glass walls, and finally landed on me. No, on us. Her breath caught when she saw Emily laughing, her hand resting casually over mine. There was no tension between us, no performance, just comfort. Something real. I saw it hit her all at once. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't revenge. This was my life now. She took a few hesitant steps forward, stopping just short of our table. Her confidence, the same confidence she'd worn when she ignored my calls years ago, was gone. "Can we talk?" she whispered. Emily looked at me, not jealous, not threatened, just calm. "I'll be right here," she said softly. I stood facing the woman who once made me feel invisible. "You had years to talk," I replied evenly. "You chose not to." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know you'd become this." I smiled, not cruelly, not proudly. "That's the problem," I said. "You only see people when they become valuable to you." Her lips trembled. "I made a mistake." I nodded. "Yes, and mistakes have consequences." For the first time, she understood something she never had before. I didn't hate her. I didn't love her. I didn't need closure. I had already moved on. I turned back to Emily, took my seat, and continued our dinner as if nothing had happened. Because for me, nothing had. Behind me, I heard quiet footsteps retreating. She walked out of my life the same way she had entered it years ago. By her own choice. And this time there was no coming back.